Hi, Marcia. Good night. Nice to see you. Good night to your listeners. How are you doing?
Doing great. Listen, don't stay away from us that long, man. I know you've been busy doing a lot of traveling and you're preparing and doing a lot of things, but we miss you on the show.
Yes, yes. I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yes.
Good to be here again. Thanks for having me to discuss. I think tonight we're going to discuss a little about housing um, in terms of the housing programs for the Ministry of Housing and Lands. So, do you want me to start, or
Well,
do you
go
want?
right
Yeah.
ahead. Listen, we
Okay.
we excited. We want to hear what is happening because since that minister was fired,
Yes.
and we haven't heard a lot of what's happening. I saw in St. Philip that they're putting up houses and they're doing all these different things. But we have not heard from that new minister of housing. So we are
Yeah.
very, very happy to hear from you, Senator. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I good. So I think the one of the things that has happened recently is that I came across a video. I actually was sent to me a video on Facebook with a company that with a guy who owned or manages a company that is building homes in Barbados. This is the video. We're not going to show the video quite just yet, Marcia.
Yes.
But so it piqued my interest from the perspective of what he said, and it then really caught my attention that this gentleman is on the social media purporting to doing work for Hope, but yet we've heard nothing from the government about this arrangement or this supposed arrangement. So before we get into the video, I just wanted to take just a few minutes to remind the viewers of the catastrophe that is Hope Inc. And remember, this company was formed just a few years ago by this government. And since its formation, we actually do not have any audited financials for Hope. So here's an entity that has been operating, I think, for about 5 years now or so, 4 to 5 years. And Barbados do not have an independent audit of the financial position of the company. It has not been laid in Parliament. It has not been shared on their website, and has not been made public if there is any. But for the years that they've been operating, which they should have been receiving annual audits, we have not seen any. But what is more amazing is that after the leader of the opposition raised these issues at Hope, is when Barbados was aware of all of the wrongdoings that have been happening at Hope in terms of the mismanagement of taxpayers' funds. And during his budget response, I think that was last year, when he uncovered the mess that is no Hope, we do not have a report as promised by the Prime Minister in terms of an independent report on Hope. But what we do have is that we have an assessment by the Auditor General, and I just wanted to share just a few of those highlights from that report, from the Auditor General's report, just to share with the public what is really the, the biggest concern is that Hope Inc. is still operating today, although we have no financial statements for the last 4 to 5 years from inception of its operation. We have the leader of opposition uncovering gross mismanagement and calling for independent audit by the Auditor General, which was completed. And the Prime Minister also responded by calling, saying that she would also do an independent investigation as well. That has not materialized, but the Auditor General report has materialized. So I just wanted, I know sometimes the audience is not sometimes not aware, or they're just aware of little snippets that may come in the media. So I just want to take a few minutes just to go through some of the highlights of the report. Hope was intended to satisfy low income earners and give them opportunity to own a piece of the rock, to own their own home. The maximum salary was about $4,000 net of income tax and national insurance deductions. Now that was subsequently raised to $6,000 a month. So in other words, the houses at Hope did not satisfy the first demographic of persons under $4,000 because, based on the mismanagement of the organization, the cost of the houses went up. So then those persons could not even afford those houses. Hope was financed with around $60 million. And based on the Auditor General, there was no evidence of a plan. There were no objectives. There were no milestones. There were key performance indicators identified. And there were no risk mitigation strategies. In other words, money was just dumped into this company, and it was now off the books of the government because it moved from the National Housing
Right.
Corporation in the Housing Credit Fund, and is now operating under individuals that have been identified and assigned by the government.
But Mr. Let me ask you something, Senator Walters. Can you just repeat what you just said? So, I want to take some notes on that, and people,
Yes.
I advise you to write these things down because elections are around the corner, and they're going to want to tell us something else. This is the report of the Auditor General, and you're
Yes.
saying that money was just dumped into this company because that's what it became, and without any objectives.
Yes.
Can you
So
list for me?
it's
This is
crazy. The Auditor General said there was no evidence provided to him or his department that there were objectives for the projects, that there were milestones set, and that key performance indicators were not identified, and there were no risk mitigation strategies identified. So there was no clear plan for Hope, but yet we had $60 million assigned to the entity to be managed by persons that are not government officials. The initial plan for Hope was to provide low income housing, as I said before. And as I said, they moved from $4,000 of earnings to $6,000. So it failed that test of providing affordable housing for low income earners, because we know that low income earners do not earn that amount of income on a monthly basis. Another objective, or that we were told about from the government officials, was that it was supposed to be connected to the grid, and that persons would have been generating electricity by panels on their house tops. That did not materialize. Actually, only two homes out of the homes built at one of the one of the developments had panels on them. There
two
was
homes out of how many? Because they didn't really build that many, but
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but essentially I think there were about over 60 homes, about 60, 65, and only two had panels on. And if you pass up there, if you drive up there, you will see quite a few number of the homes are unoccupied, and for sure you will not see panels on the homes, right? But the point is here is that these homes then were constructed at a much higher price than they're intended to, and we're not getting the benefits in terms of the electricity sell back to the light and power, etc., that was originally planned. The Auditor General also said that there was no title for lands at Poole St. John. So in Pools, there was another development that they were working on, and the media would have carried stories where there are shells built, but they're now overgrown with bush. And one of the issues is that they started to construct these homes without title for the land. This is Hope Inc. It also identified that the quality of the construction was poor, and it lacked oversight and supervision from the management of Hope. So bad that actually two homes had to be demolished, right? So there was no title for property that they started to build homes on. The quality of construction was very poor. so much so that 2 homes had to be demolished and rebuilt from scratch.
Wow. And you're saying that they constructed the homes at a higher price than was originally
Yes,
budgeted.
correct. And we'll get
You
into
know
that.
what the percentage is? Okay, go ahead. You're
We
getting
will
into
get into that. But the first signal is that you said, listen, we are building homes for persons that earn less than $4,000, right? And then you come back and said, okay, we're going to build homes, the same homes in the same neighborhood, for in the same community for persons now that are earning less than $6,000. So straight away, you know that the homes were constructed at a higher cost, and those originally targeted cannot afford the homes. Right. So that's the first sign. No. The second sign is that they entered into contractual arrangements that committed the company to pay a contractor $64 million in precast structures. And the Auditor General noted that Hope Inc. had no authority to make that arrangement.
Say that
$64
again.
million
Who
dollars.
did they pay? They paid the
They,
developer.
they contracted a
The con-
developer.
they contracted a developer for
Yes,
$64 million in precast. Does the
correct.
precasting?
Precast structures, similar to what you're seeing on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But the Auditor General identified that they had no authority to make that type of arrangement.
Wow.
Right? Now, you would have also read somewhere in the media, and some of your audience might have been aware of this, that this same contractor is seeking compensation for breach of contract.
Yes. And I
So,
saw that in the papers. That is
yes,
Mark Maloney.
correct. Yes.
Yeah. Mark
So
Maloney.
here we have a situation where they've entered into arrangements that they had no authority to do, and now they're in breach of those arrangements, and the taxpayers might be left to pay compensation to the contractor. But when we spoke about the houses being constructed at a higher price than was originally conceptualized, the Auditor General made a very alarming situation. He said that Hope Inc. committed to spending an additional $37 million by choosing precast structures over the traditional building with blocks. So, in other words, where we would normally have our artisans going in and building blocks, cement, have the mixer out, have the laborers mixing and be pouring cement, and we have a nice team of young men and women in some instances. They chose to enter into an arrangement that I think that cost $30,000 more per home if they used the precast structures versus if they had used the traditional building with blocks. So again, you're building affordable homes. These are not homes for the rich and famous. These are affordable homes, and you have chose to make a decision to increase the cost of the houses, right? So those are critical things as it relates to even the simple mandate of providing affordable homes and saving taxpayers' money, but still putting ordinary Barbadians into a comfortable living, right? But these were situations that have been unraveled by the Auditor General, not by any member of the Democratic Labour Party. The report is on the Parliament's website. The report is also on the Auditor General's, I think they have an Auditor General's website where you can download the report as well. But he went a little further, and I try to wrap up this section here. And he said that the government also decided to import hardwood housing, which is prefabricated houses now, pre-built from Guyana, shipped to Barbados, and then local persons will build the foundations and do the installations of those houses, the assembly of those houses. The Auditor General said that the company that was chosen, Barbados was its largest client, and there were no other clients on record that they could have found that had a contract with this company in excess of 100,000 US dollars. So in other words, the government contracted a company that seemed to not have the reputation of doing what they wanted to do, and committed millions of dollars to this company to build homes, put in containers, and send them here to be assembled. You see, so a lot of mysterious things have been happening in this under this hope, and that is why the leader of the opposition, the Democratic Labour Party, has been calling not only for investigation but for hope really to be shut down. But what happened now is that for those wooden houses that came in, Marcia, the Auditor General said that it would cost $125,000 more per house, more than originally planned. $125,000 more. No, sorry, let me rephrase it. He said that based on the new cost of the houses when they landed and when they start to assemble, each house will lose $125,000 if it was sold at the original price that the government said it wanted to sell these houses to low-income earners. Now remember, these are board houses. Don't mind the fancy talk about prefabricated. These are board houses. And the government and Hope will lose, and taxpayers will lose $125,000 per house once they're completed. This was the assessment of the Auditor General. So we know that 11 homes were done and handed over. And if what the Auditor General has reported is accurate, you are talking about a loss of $1.3 million on those 11 homes alone. Marcia, this government committed to import 350 homes from that company. This is very bad. Extremely, extremely horrible. All right. So there's some more stuff in there, but I want to get down to, because I know time is flying. But then we have a company now who is masquerading on social media and saying that they're going to build 86 homes for Hope. So if you show the video so your viewers can hear what this company is advertising that they're doing for Hope. You there, Marcia? All right, so till Marcia comes back in, this company is saying that they're going to do pretty much steel frame homes. Okay, go ahead, Marcia.
Yes, so we're going to play the video now, okay?
Yes.
We have to unmute. So let's unmute the video.
Modular Builds Barbados, and we're in St. Lucie this afternoon, where we are building 86 houses, affordable 2 beds and 3 beds. So behind us we have a 2-bed house frame which we started about an hour ago, and as you can see we're nearly, I'd say about 70% done with the frame. So this is galvanized steel which is coated in something called GR90. It's sea salt resistant. I'm not going to say proof because that's not the right word to actually say, but it's anti-rust corrosion resistant, which is great because we have obviously the sea salt here in Barbados. But yes, we got a great development going on here. We're very excited as the houses go up very, very quickly. So in about 10 days from now, this house will be fully complete and ready to hand over to Hope. And yeah, we're very excited to be in Barbados. So the foundation, as you can see, that's what takes the actual longest here. So that took us about 3 weeks. We have to give it about 2 to 3 weeks to cure the slab. So what we've done in the meantime is we put the frame up, but we're not going to anchor down the frame as yet. So this house, where you're at now, where you can see it, is at framing stage. Straight after this, we'll be at cement board stage. Then we liquid glue the seams, do a trowel plaster, put the roof on, and then we finish with the electrics, plumbings, and finishings inside. So to answer your question, Zach, it would probably take us about another 10 to 12 days from today to finish and hand over this house. And that's how it works.
Very cool. Where did you get the idea from? What
Wow.
kind of sparked it?
So we started back in London. We have a factory in London. We have a very big factory in Guyana. I've actually moved from Guyana to Barbados now to open up the factory here. So we started this about 4 or 5 years back, but we just entered the Caribbean about 2 years ago. So it's not, see, what people have to understand is it's not new technology. It's actually quite old. It's about 20 years old. It's just not used in the Caribbean because a lot of people are scared of the hurricanes and the tropical seasons and the sun. Is the sun going to corrode the steel? But it's been proven that this galvanized GR90 graded steel doesn't rust. It can't rot. It's got the same strength as concrete, if not more. It's a lot more lightweight. It's a lot more cost effective. And the speed to build these houses are 100 times faster than blocks and cement. So we've been going a couple of years. Like I said, we've got a factory in Guyana, a huge one. And we've got a lovely big factory here in Warrens as well, Cane Gardens. And this is actually the first house that we're putting up in Barbados. So yeah, like I said, we're very excited. The whole team's out. As you can see, just over there, we've got more foundations dug out. But yeah, we're excited. You know, it's a great technology for the country, and what's even more important is the fact that we're delivering on these houses at such a rapid rate. Like, these 86 houses will be done by the end of the year. I don't know any company, you know, in the Caribbean that can deliver that fast and this much quality of work in such a short space of time. So that's where we are, Zach.
Cool.
So hi guys, I'm Hard.
Yeah. So Marcia, this is nothing new to Barbados. The government has already imported steel frame homes in a similar program from China back in 2021, if you could remember that,
Yeah.
after we had the freak storm, right?
Yeah.
And let me give now your viewers the report from the Auditor General, a summary of the findings from the importation of these same steel frame homes. And then we could ask some critical questions to this gentleman and to the Ministry of Housing and Lands. The initial cost of that project was supposed to be $22.59 million. So $22.5 million was the original cost to bring in 150 steel frames and assemble them and transfer them to home ownership for Barbadians. It actually cost the taxpayers of this country the $22.5 million plus another $23.6 million in cost overruns.
Right. Wow.
Which is more than it cost for the original project. Normally we're accustomed to 10%, 5 to 10% in terms of cost overruns, etc. But you're talking about 100+%.
More than 100%.
More than 100% that
Wow.
had cost taxpayers on this project. When at that time, Barbadians were crying out to give this work to the small contractors and artisans in the country.
I remember that.
Because it happened in a time where the economy was down, we were recovering from COVID, and we were rebuilding and reopening the economy, and we needed work for our young men, our young women, our small contractors who have had the experience. So it is not new, but the government's track record has been horrible. As of February last year, less than half of these houses were completed. So you're talking about almost double of the money that was budgeted spent, with only half of the houses completed. 42 out of 150 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
As we speak, somewhere in St. Philip, there are containers with these frames and structures loaded into. There is a factory that was, I think, commissioned to help with the assembly of them.
Yes.
But all that seems to be at a standstill And the new
Yes,
minister of housing,
actually, grass is growing. It's just thrown down, and we
exactly.
have some pictures. I know Miss McLean had
Okay.
given us some pictures of it. Yeah.
Yes. So these are questions that the new minister has to address. You can't gloss over the fact of the first minister failed, and there are significant questions of financial mismanagement and corruption. But we have to continue to investigate and ask these questions, especially seeing now that you have steel frames still in containers, you have less than half of the houses being built, and you're doing a similar project, and we do not know how much money it's costing. We are not even aware, because if I was to manage a project like this, for example, or even you, Marcia, and you have had some hiccups in the initial project, but you would have still had structures, etc., you would seek to reuse those structures.
Mhm.
Because the point is that you are going to save taxpayers money by reusing some of the structures and using them in this project. Is that the case? It doesn't sound so. The
Because they're
gentleman is
using a
saying,
different model. Because right away I'm wondering, so what's going to happen to the ones at Hope? Are we going to abandon those to the grass and all of that now?
exactly. And
It's
they have
just,
already been abandoned, and we're moving on, but we're moving on with hundreds of millions of dollars burdened to taxpayers. That is the issue. The
mm,
issue is that this government continues to misuse public funds and squander our taxpayers' dollars, especially under the National Housing Corporation, or sorry, under the Ministry of Housing, and specifically under Hope, which we are calling to be closed until further notice.
until further notice.
Right?
Senator, we have another 2 minutes in this segment. I'll give you four, because I'm just going to use a half a minute to say something. That what is so sad about this? I remember when I went down to Hope House, where the the frames that's there, and you know what struck me, Senator? It's just that, oh, what a great idea this was, really. Let's be honest.
Yes.
This is a great idea for the people of Barbados. Because so that people are going to be able to get low income houses. When you saw the promo for these things, when you saw how beautiful it was, the prime minister walking through these homes, it felt good. It felt like people. I honestly thought that this is a great idea. But like all the ideas, all the all of the plans, it's like they start out and they stop. As we said, they walk back, they start and stop, they flip flop. Basically, is what has happened to this brilliant idea. But over to you, sir.
Remember, I live in a world where ideas are nothing, huh? But execution is everything, right? And in this instance, you have seen that the government has kind of developed a structure that they can control, and in this instance, mismanage and manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said, we have Hope Inc., who was set up for the functions of creating and building homes and low income and affordable homes, when we already have a national housing corporation that has a reputation, not perfect reputation, but a reputation of providing affordable home ownership to Barbadians. So we first have to look at why would they do that, right? Because even in the Auditor General's report, it was said, I can say this here to before as I close. The budgeted annual operational cost for Hope
Mm-hmm.
initially was at $913,000 a year. But the annual cost actually was $4 million a year.
Hold a minute. Hold a minute here. So what happened there? The operational cost was 913,000.
It was budgeted as $913,000 a year when they
Yes,
started. It ended up
budgeted
being $4 million
4
a
million.
year as per the Auditor General. And that's administrative cost. So what is the administrative cost, Marcia? Salaries.
That's why I flag it.
Consultancies. Right?
No, this is
And the
crazy.
other things.
Barbadians, are you hearing this? The budgeted operating costs 913,000 year per year, and they're saying the actual is now 4 million, and operating costs, as the goodly senator has broken that out for us, administrative costs, we're talking about that includes salaries,
and consultancy fees.
consultancy fees.
Yes, it includes electricity as well, or rent for those who
Oh,
want to pick
yeah.
up what we're saying. But
The bulk of
clearly,
that is going to be
clearly it
salary.
wouldn't come up to $4 million, you know. So I said the intent of why a government will set up that company is the first issue. The second issue is that they continue to ignore the cries of Barbadians as it relates to hope. The Prime Minister refused to do her independent assessment as she said she would on the floor of Parliament. They ignore the contents of the Auditor General's report. They ignore the realities that Bajans can see when they pass pools, St. John, when they pass St. James and Vesper Gardens, and they have now moved on to spend more of taxpayers' money, which we do not know how much they have budgeted for per home, how much this company is getting, what is the real commitment that taxpayers have been assigned to in terms of hope, because taxpayers are funding hope. Hope is not a private investor who has come to Barbados to say he's going to put $50 million into housing and get a return. It is taxpayers' money. It is only being managed by persons outside of government. So it is not, in my assessment, it is not even a true private-public partnership agreement, because the only investment is consulting fees and management fees.
Wow.
We're not aware that other persons have put money into Hope and are expecting a return for it. So the money is being mismanaged. But this government has swiftly moved past all the concerns that Barbadians have laid, the Democratic Labour Party has laid, and every right-thinking person made an assessment about Hope already, and it needs to be shut down.
You know what's going through my mind, and again, we don't have enough time, but as some of the viewers said, Marcia, we move on too quickly from things. And I want to, Sarah, I want to invite you back on the program very soon, to come back, and what we're going to do is to we're going to I'll send them to you. We're going to create some some graphs and some visuals then.
Yes.
Some visuals. I think we need some visuals, Senator Ryan, because this is a scandal.
Yes.
This is a scandal that they want us to gloss over. We're going to take our quiet time with it. I promise you. We're going to do a research. We're going to research on this new company. I promise you, we're going to look at it in Canada. We're going to find out what happened in Guyana with them. When did they register in Barbados? I want to know that.
September of this year.
I saw that when I just did a little bit of research. I saw that they registered September 25th.
Yes, of 2025.
Of 2025. So we have to look a little bit more into this company. We're going to go and look a little bit more. But Senator Ryan, oh goodness, just like the session we had before, we have to break, we have to go. But promise me, sir, if you could come back even tomorrow, that would be lovely. I know you have a busy schedule, but seriously, if you can, we'll make a space for you, or on Wednesday, okay? But we don't want to keep it so far apart, because so that we can follow along. So just let me know when it's when you can, okay?
I will, no problem.
This is a scandal, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I hope, guys, we will be joining back whenever he's on to hear his complete presentation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good night to everyone. Bye.
Yes, God bless you. All the best. And congrats to your son. It's your son that got which one got an award for Common Entrance?
Oh, my daughter. Yes.
Your daughter.
Yes,
your daughter. Congratulations. What award was that?
I think she was in the top 10 for the results for the Common Entrance. Yeah.